welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. It's the D3D4 Football Podcast, back after a brief hiatus, a bit of a respite after what was an amazing season, very truncated, pretty intense, and of course, let's give our congratulations to the playoff winners, Blackpool, of course, who made it look fairly easy in the end, their promotion out of League One. And a massive congratulations, of course, to Morecambe, who will be playing in the third tier next season for the first time ever after beating Newport at Wembley. Slightly fortuitously, perhaps, but nonetheless, I think if you look where they finished the season, that's just the way playoffs are, and they deserve to go up. Few points of call, a little bit of business before we get started. In fact, before we get started, Christian Eriksen, my goodness, wishing him a speedy recovery. That was absolutely the worst thing I've probably witnessed while watching a football match. I think those scenes were just gut-wrenching, is the way I'd describe them. I was watching it with my kids. My wife was upstairs and we were just watching the match, and you see this guy, he's just suddenly collapses out of nowhere, and you immediately can see the concern on his teammates' faces. And my wife comes down, and she was concerned that something happened to one of the kids. The shock on my face and my daughter's face was pretty obvious, I would imagine. And I was explaining it to her, this guy's there, and they're performing CPR. I mean, they were performing CPR on him on the pitch, and I think at that point is when I sort of, it really just...
They had the defibrillator out, didn't they?
They did, yeah. It really, and you could see them treating him, and I thought, this looks awful. I mean, it sends you into shock. Just brings life into perspective somewhat, and I think, needless to say, we just really do wish him a speedy recovery, and I'm so relieved. And what a fantastic job the medical team did to get out there quickly and treat him, because when they got out to the pitch, he was breathing, and they could feel a pulse, they said, but suddenly it stopped, and my goodness, that was one of the most uncomfortable and distressing things I've had to view ever. So really wish him a speedy recovery. Awful stuff, and a really nice young man as well, Christian Eriksen, by all accounts. So not something you want to see. David Lewis has joined us as a patron. Brilliant to have you on board, David. Thank you so much for your support, and indeed to all our patrons in a season where we really couldn't give you perhaps some of the content we'd have liked. Sometimes we can get interviews in, sometimes we get people on, but given the fact that the season was so thick and fast, it was difficult to get interviews this year because players were just playing Saturday, Tuesday, managers too busy, and also going out to games to do vlogs and stuff was just not possible. So big thank you to all our patrons who supported us, have helped us keep the website going, kept this podcast going. Massive appreciation to you guys, and to Alistair, who won our Cheltenham signed shirt competition, which was in aid of the Roy Castle Foundation charity for lung cancer. Really good stuff, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. He won the shirt for £185. I was so happy with that. I thought that was an excellent sum, and he then went and made a private donation to top it up to £250. I mean, that is an extremely kind and generous gesture. Can
I personally thank him as well, because it's a charity that means a lot to me, and I've done fundraising as well, and that's absolutely fantastic. They've had such a difficult year.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind, generous donation from Alistair to top it up as well. Just lovely stuff. I really appreciate that. It was so nice to hear a present for his father. So I hope he enjoys it, and it's
lucky guy.
Yeah, historic season. And thank you for Cheltenham, of course, for supplying us the shirt. Getting that sorted for us. That's really kind of them as well. Right, it's a question and answers podcast. But just before we jump into the questions, how are you guys? I mean, Ed, football's back on with the Euros. It's been a bit of a strange hiatus without League 1 and 2, but what are you up to? How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad. We've had the National League playoffs as well recently. We've got the second semi-final today between Stockport County and Hartlepool United, which will be quite a
Poor
fun little
County.
thing to watch in the build up to the England game at 2. So that's exciting. Yeah, it's interesting because we're at that stage where you're getting people signing sort of pre-contract deals with new clubs, and it's quite fun to see how many players are moving across already.
Yeah, a couple of shockers yesterday, which we have got a question about. One of them, just interesting to see how people are reshaping their squads. Some big players leaving, some teams that you perhaps wouldn't have expected. So obviously lots of managerial changes as well, which we'll look at in our pre-season preview podcast as always. No idea when we'll be doing them this year. I haven't even sort of planned that yet, but we will be doing 1 to 24s again for League 1 and 2. I would imagine Lincoln would be slightly higher up in our League 1 one this year.
I'll put them 21st.
Yes, indeed. That was a great season. Pity they couldn't get it over the line at Wembley, but I think in terms of Blackpool, they were the best team and they went up. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I've not had too much chance to watch the Euros yet, but I'll have the England game on today, and I'm glad to have something on the TV to watch when I'm not so busy. But yeah, generally doing pretty well.
You're flat like a greenhouse in this heat?
Yeah, it's been quite unbearable at times, but I've had the windows cranked open, and I've got a decent fan, so far so good. I'm coping.
Yeah, we're recording this.
It did get to 36 degrees in my flat the other day. I've got a little thermometer.
You're not growing like illicit drugs or something, are you? What I mean?
I'm not prepared to answer these questions on a podcast, James.
Okay. So if any of the local constabulary in Leeds want his address, just hit me up on my DMs. I'm happy to supply it. Yeah, that is one hot flat, and it's going to be 27 today, isn't it? It's going to be an absolute scorcher.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Sunday, so
I found a way to crank my windows a little bit further because I'm in a flat block. They've got the protection on them, but I've managed to find a way to crank it a bit further to get a bit more air flowing.
nothing like a crowbar, eh? Just
just a hammer in the window.
Yeah, air your flat. Blimey, yes, it's going to be a warm day, so plenty of fluids on for everyone. Not too much of the alcoholic beverages, chaps. You know,
I make no promises.
Hangovers on Monday morning. Yeah, right. Let's jump into the question now. I've got so many really good questions. Thank you to all of you who sent them in. Where to start? Ed, go on. You can choose a question, mate. Let's have
You want me to pick?
You can pick one. Yeah, pick one at random. I haven't looked at all of these.
There was one that came up on my own retweet, which it's a National League relevant one, from Freddie Harper Davies. National League playoffs, which club would you like to see promoted back to League 2, and which club do you think will be promoted back to League 2? And then a follow-up question, would a 3-up, 3-down rule make the quality at the bottom of League 2 stronger?
Oh, that's a good
So
question,
who would
Freddie.
you like to see at come to National League playoffs, and who do you actually think would be the first bit?
Well, Chris, you go first, because I know who you want to see go up.
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad grew up watching Stockport, and so they've become my second team over the years. I really want them to go up, and I don't know. I think they might do it.
I'd like to see Torquay, because it's the best away day ever. I used to go and watch Oxford play there quite a lot. I mean, the other thing is as well, he asked which team would you think will go back up. I mean, I'd be very surprised if Hartlepool beat Stockport, because if you look at the stats, and I've been doing a lot of this for D5 and taking a look at all the data for the National League, I mean, Stockport and Torquay were the standout teams.
They've been superb this season, and the structures they've been putting in place at the club to make it more sustainable. I was chatting to someone the other day, and they are convinced that Stockport will be a championship club in the next 10 years. That's where their heads are at this point.
Oh, the nostalgia. Yes, I watched them in the Championship. I watched them at Frat Park a few times in the Championship, actually. They had some good players. I mean, don't ask me to do it from memory, but I remember they had Nash in goal in one of the games.
And there was the Kevin Francis. That's the one my dad always used to go on about.
Ah, Kevin Francis. He joined Oxford in a deal that saw Darren Purse move to Birmingham. Probably best known for his miss in the FA Cup game live on TV against Chelsea. But actually,
I think I've got a DVD of the best of Kevin Francis somewhere.
There's a DVD of the best of Kevin Francis.
Okay. There is, yeah.
He's a policeman in Alberta, Canada now. Last time I heard.
He is, yeah. He is.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to mess with him. He's 6'7".
Yeah, he's a big bloke.
And the Tom Denton-like character.
Yeah, better though, much better. Much better player. I mean, in his prime, before he got all the injuries and stuff, he was actually a formidable striker at the Championship level, or Division 1 as it was called at the time. But yeah, really good player. So I think, who will do it? I don't know. Either Stockport or Torquay should, because they've been the best teams. I'd like to see Torquay. Ed, you got a preference?
Yeah, I said at the start of the playoffs I wanted Stockport because, in a bit of a contrast to Chris, I've been seeing them playing the National League North. I remember watching them getting beaten in the final minutes against Bradford Park Avenue, going 3-0 up on SC United in an FA Cup game and ended up drawing 3-3. I've seen them probably at the lowest point, times when Jim Gannon was there. And it'd be really nice to me to see them back in, because I just about remember them as a Football League side. I can remember them being in League One and then really dropping away quite quickly, which is really unfortunate. It'd be really nice to see them back in the Football League. I do think Torquay are going to do it, though. The one I actually think is whether will be Torquay, and I think mainly for me, it just feels like they looked second to quite a while. They looked the one out of the lot that I most fancied to maybe catch Sutton, which they didn't in the end. So I'm expecting, to be honest, Stockport to beat Hartlepool today, and then a Torquay v Stockport final at Ashton Gate, which just doesn't sound as attractive as saying as it's Wembley, does it? But you can't use Wembley at the moment because of the Euros, and I think Torquay will do it, as much as I'd love Stockport to do it instead.
Yeah, and if Torquay go up, let's do a D3D4 away day down to. Yeah,
I've never been there.
Yeah,
I was actually at the playoff final when Stockport were promoted to League One in 2008. They played against Rochdale. I remember it zooming in on Adam Lafondra crying on the big screen.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how clubs rise and fall, isn't it? I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Torquay is similar, aren't they? They were National League South last year, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Certainly not long ago, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're a good team, Torquay. It's a nice little ground, played more. It's changed a bit, probably now since I first went there. But yeah, good to see. I mean, I don't know if you guys are young to remember, they had this grudge match against Barnet, I think, at Underhill, where the team that lost would go down. I actually think, did Torquay go down? No, I think Barnet went down on that day. I can't remember though off the top of my head. But it was, they were one of these sides that tended to struggle. But they did have David Graham, one of the best strikers I've seen in the lower leagues, play for them before a move, I believe it was to Wigan or Sheffield Wednesday or somewhere. But I mean, he was a great striker. Really could hit a ball. Really good finisher. All right, next question, Chris. Do you want to choose one?
Was there a second part to that question?
Yeah, there was. A follow-up: would 3 up, 3 down make the quality at the bottom of League Two stronger? I've campaigned for this for a lot. I really think they should do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm happy with this until Oxford go into League Two, and then I think it's 2 up, 2. I mean,
yeah, I think
the argument I've seen against this is that apparently you need to earn a place in the Football League, and that is true. But isn't coming second in a 24-team league earning your place anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
That's the way I really don't see anything wrong with this.
You have to earn your position in every league. That's
exactly. You get 3 automatic spots in League Two. Is that not earning it?
Yeah, no, I kind of like that difference, but it does mean that a terrible team can stay up quite easily in League Two, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the thing for me as well is that with the National League itself, you look how hard it is to get out. Sutton are in happy land at the minute because they won the title, and then you've got 6 teams for 1 spot. It's so difficult to get out of, and I think Grimsby and Southend will realise that when they're down there as well. It just always, to me, it's a gap teams can manage. And no team, as far as I'm aware, has ever been relegated straight back down from the National League when they've gone up into League Two.
No, hardly anyone, apart from Bristol Rovers. I can't think of many that bounced straight back up. Cheltenham did it as well.
Yeah.
Not many, though. Not many. It's a difficult division. So, yeah, I'd have that. I think, because if you look at the quality of teams that are trying to get back into the league, and a lot of them are better run than some of the clubs.
Yeah, they are.
In League 1 2. So, yeah, I'd be up for that. And I mean, a shout out to Sutton as well. The fact that we're bigging up Torquay and Stockport, the fact that Sutton won the league, just massive
amazing.
I think there's actually an argument to be made that it might actually promote slightly more sustainable finances. Because a lot of the clubs that have come up with the National League, you just made the comment yourself, James, is that they are better run, a lot of them. Not all the time, but quite often, and I think it would just put a little bit more emphasis on improving the finances of Football League clubs so they don't face that drop.
Yeah, agreed. Right, next question. Chris, do you want to choose one?
Yeah, there was a question from Lee Clifton asking FA Cup replays were scrapped during the 2021 season. Can you see them being scrapped on a permanent basis?
Yeah, they're gone for me. I can't see them bringing them back, which is a huge shame.
I mean, the Premier League have wanted rid of them, or a lot of Premier League clubs at least have wanted rid of them for some time to remove what they perceive to be fixture congestion, but it's never looked like major fixture congestion to me.
Yeah, I remember thinking about this. I think a couple of years ago I probably would have said no because of how important I think about clubs who would really benefit from having that replay, that chance to go to the big stadium, get the income from that. It could really help them financially. But I do see the arguments for it now. What I kind of wish is that, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the DFB Pokal in Germany, they give home advantage to the lower ranked side. So you'll get the Bundesliga teams going to teams from the third Liga or the Regional Liga. And that works quite well. That proves really popular. The only real problem is in England, we don't get the big teams in from the start. You have to wait till the third round proper for the Premier League and the Championship sides to come in. So maybe it wouldn't quite have the same effect. But
the other thing is, well, if you play at home, you don't get the income from their huge.
I was about to say, because in the FA Cup you split the money 50-50, and so actually the case always with Oldham in reaching the FA Cup, and it'll be the same for every club, is you want to draw one of effectively Manchester United or Arsenal, because the ticket revenue you get from that,
and Tottenham now, I think,
and probably Tottenham now, is worth £1 million. So I wouldn't want to see the smaller side given the home advantage for that reason. I think it would
potentially so, yeah. But I'd see what they're saying about the replays now, and it just does feel like too much fixture congestion.
I mean, I'd
bring them back straight away. I would.
I would, yeah. I think it's part of the grand tradition of the game, but I also I don't see why. I don't see the argument for getting rid of it. I don't see. Obviously, it made sense this season because there was a specific pressure on fixtures. But I mean, what for most Premier League clubs? What is this congestion that they're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Absolute rubbish. And you've got to remember that before we got all precious about this, like clubs could only make one substitution. Most of them had a tiny squad and could get through the exact same number of fixtures. On pitches that were heavier, their players took their fitness less seriously. So I don't really see how. I don't get it, to be honest. I really don't. But yeah, I'd like to see them stay for sure. What I would like to see is the 4th Champions League spot be awarded to the FA Cup winner.
Yes, I agree.
Because why do you reward someone for finishing 4th?
It's not. How can you call someone finishing 4th a champion?
Yeah, or 2nd or 3rd for that matter. But I mean,
well, yeah, but I mean, especially 4th. It's not even like bronze and silver.
At the end of the season, they're trying to crank up this jeopardy, the race for 4th, and I was like, the race for 4th. I mean, honestly, it's like the race for 13th.
To be fair, 4th won it this year. If we're being honest, Chelsea finished 4th, didn't they?
Yeah.
The point still stands.
What? Yeah. Whoever is with me on this is a king. I miss the Cup Winners' Cup. That was a cup.
Unless they bring back the Anglo-Italian Cup.
Yeah, well, maybe not that.
Anglo-Italian Cup.
Oh, yes. Grimsby versus Perugia and stuff like that, I've got some football. Well, I probably don't anymore.
I'd be down for Grimsby-Perugia. That'd be a great game.
I had some football programmes from that era of Anglo-Italian Cup games. Yeah. That was an interesting tournament, but I still think the Cup Winners' Cup was pretty amazing. A cup for people who won the cups, a Champions League for people who were actually champions, and a UEFA Cup for those that didn't quite make that grade. But I mean, this is fanciful stuff, isn't it?
We can dream.
We can dream. Ed, next question. Go on. You can choose the next one.
Let me see. Okay, from Ian Thairhead, which team in each league disappointed you the most, and which team were you pleased to see exceed expectations?
I'll start with the team in League 2 that disappointed me the most. No doubt, Walsall for me. I mean, at the start of the season, I looked at their squad, and
you really liked them, didn't you?
I thought they were all right. I mean, Darryl Clark had kept the core players that had done him quite well at the end of the previous season. He'd added to it with people like Manios Adebi, Hayden White, guys that you thought would add good depth and options, because we were always concerned about their right-hand side. But it was criminal in some respects not to have a plan B for when Rory Holden got injured, because that's really the crux. They didn't have a guy who was scoring lots of goals, and when Rory Holden got injured, they just looked terrible. I'm really excited to see how they do next season. I'm sure we'll come on to that at some point. But yeah, Walsall in League 2. League 1, was there? I mean, maybe Plymouth, because I think they looked better than they ended up being. They had that awful run, and then they conceded so many goals at the end of the season. I was a bit disappointed with them. I mean, you look at the 4 that went down. Was there any that surprised me? I mean, Swindon had their issues off the pitch. Rochdale, I was concerned about, and I thought
there was a lot of positive things about Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, they were.
Some people.
They were terrible, weren't they? They were really. I mean, maybe a bit obvious one for me to go for Bristol Rovers. Finished bottom, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably say Plymouth in League 1. What's your take on this, Chris?
Yeah, so for League 2, I think there's a couple of teams that have disappointed. I mean, I think Mansfield again have been disappointing. They had the terrible season last season, and they've been a little bit less crap this season. But really,
less crap. That's progress.
I'd love to be marginally less crap. But yeah, I'll go with Mansfield, I think, just because I mean the structure and the finances at the club suggest that they should be a much better side. For disappointments in League 1, I mean this is a tough one. I mean, obviously the ones that have gone down have been disappointing. Swindon, I think in particular, have been disappointing, but also they have had fairly major mitigating circumstances.
Shout out to Ipswich.
Well, yeah, Ipswich. I did actually have Plymouth down as well, same as you. But maybe we're being a little bit harsh on Plymouth because I'm right in saying this is the first season back in League 1.
I just think it was the way they fell away quite drastically, and you looked at the quality in their squad, and you felt like, yeah, the defence was always suspect.
I expected them to be somewhere around where MK Dons are, maybe flirting a little bit with a higher finish.
Anything you, Ed?
Yeah, League 2, from a personal one, I probably have to go Port Vale, because I was very, very excited about them pre-season, potentially being a promotion favourite, and it's completely backfired on me. But they had a real contrast of a season where they were looking really strong at the start. There was a point where they were looking in serious, serious danger, but Darren Clark got them into strong thought in the end and ended up with a 13th place finish, which is okay, probably in the grand scheme of things when you look at the results, but seems a bit disappointing compared to where they were previously.
Yeah, they've been busy already in the transfer market, haven't they?
Yeah, they are. For League 1, I mean, there's a point it's Burton, you'd have to say. Even if they weren't finished expectedly high, to be as low down as they were, but they've turned that around. I'd maybe go Doncaster.
Yeah.
I know losing Darren Moore has had an effect on them, but to fall away the way they have, it's just really disappointing for a team that was looking at promotion favourite at one point.
I think Ben Whiteman was such a key player, and although immediate impact when he left wasn't apparent, you don't lose your best player, and it doesn't affect you. I don't think when he's been there and he's been such a good player. So I do think there were some mitigating things, and also I think, not being unfair to Andy Butler, what a great professional he's been, but that was unfair to leave him with the games until the end of the season. Yeah. It didn't work, did it?
There were mistakes made, you'd have to say.
Indeed. Keith John Fletcher has asked, Lincoln fan here, League 1 looks tough next season. Do you think Michael Appleton can do it again? Keith, rest assured, he will.
Is he going to be it though?
I was wondering if he's favourite for the.
That's my worry.
I've been hitting up a few sources about this one. There has been no contact made between West Brom.
They always say that.
And Michael Appleton. Well, there actually hasn't at this stage. Whether or not that's because they've got someone else in mind first, I don't know.
David Wagner, didn't they? I saw that.
I saw that one come through as well, yeah. That would be a terrible appointment.
Appleton or Wagner, that's a no-brainer.
Well, Wagner's now gone to...
I loved him on X Factor, though.
He's basically gone. Wagner's gone somewhere else.
Has he?
Yeah, no, he's the manager. Yeah, look it up. Look where's he signed. He signed this weekend. He signed for someone. I want to say it was...
Oh, he is. He's with Young Boys in Switzerland.
That's it. Young Boys Bern. Yeah, he's gone to Young Boys.
I didn't know that.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
So this is
Never
why
mind. Never mind.
it's kind of thrown that all open again. But I think if he stays, he'll do it again. We'll caveat that. If he stays, he'll do it again because he's, you've got a good team. He's good at getting players in who improve the team because he's got great contacts within the game, and he's Michael Appleton, and I just love him. So yeah, he'll be fine. I don't know if you. I mean, I'd let you guys talk on Michael Appleton, but seeing as you dissed him so badly at the start of last season, I think.
Listen, at the time, right? This is the problem we had with the predictions that there was still about a month and a half on the window left, so we were basically going on squads that just weren't fully complete yet. But at the time,
I'll just stop you there, Ed. I'd just like to remind James of Notts County.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
I'd also like to do how insistent you were about Walsall going up as well.
It's all I'm going to say on this matter.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, I think I had Cambridge like potential relegation in my personal prediction. I mean, I think to be fair, like I don't think anyone saw Cambridge doing that. They were very quick to sort of take the mick out of the expert, so to speak.
Well, I was going to say, I think before we were supposed to name it exceeding expectations, and it would be harsh not to have Cambridge in there.
I think we'd have to go out.
Yeah.
Morecambe and Cambridge, yeah.
Yeah, jointly get that one. Any further addition? Who's the one in League One? I mean, I'd say perhaps Blackpool.
I went for Oxford just for the sake of where they were at one point. I suppose it's not so much exceeding on the start of the season, but just after the start they had to make the playoffs is very impressive.
Yeah, I'd maybe say Charlton because I was really unsure about them at the start, given the situation they were in. I just wasn't sure what to expect from them at all, and they've ended up just outside the playoffs with a new owner. So I'd maybe go them.
I was quite relieved. I wasn't relieved because I wanted Oxford to beat Blackpool, but I wasn't surprised to see that I was right about how easily Blackpool got past Oxford in the end. They just looked.
Oxford weren't even bad in that game either. Like I just thought Blackpool was superb.
Yeah, they had another gear, which was very impressive. Very impressive. Ed, next question. Have a look to see which one takes your fancy.
Yep. One from Lee Tennant. Just going off your gut and the manager in place at the moment, without knowing the full extent of teams' recruitment at this stage, give us your 3 teams to watch out for in League 1 and League 2. Not necessarily the ones who'll get promotion, but sides who you think maybe will surprise everyone. I'm putting Shrewsbury Town straight in this.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
I really think Shrewsbury under Steve Cotterill could do something very good.
Yeah, well, I think as well, if you look
they're
at
building something really nice there.
Yeah,
they're building something really nice. And he wasn't even there for a lot last season. He's thankfully seems to have recovered. I think they could do something really good next season with him there.
Do you remember when Paul Hurst took over? And no one in that 17-18 season, no one thought that they'd do very well. But actually, if you looked at the form that he had them in at the end of the 16-17 season, there were clues there. And I think we're in a very similar situation with Steve Cotterill, where you look at how he's got Shrewsbury playing. I mean, you can discount the last few games perhaps when nothing was to play for. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Ed. And I think they're a well-run club, and they're going to be playing against a few teams who are right in the middle of big transitions as well. So that could be a big advantage. Who else have you got in League One?
Oh, in League One? I was going to suggest the League Two one then.
We'll go for League Two, yeah, if you want.
Yeah, League Two, I was thinking maybe Alex Ravel and Stevenage. Again, a similar one where I've been really positive about them in the back half of this season. It seems like Ravel's got it right with the recruitment. He's got the right intent there. And I think they could upset the apple cart potentially in League Two when many probably don't fancy it from them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that shocked. I would say, and Tom Lyons will not be appreciating this, but I am very intrigued to see how Walsall do under.
Sorry.
Oh, I think in Taylor.
You're not going down this route again with Walsall.
We'll see. I'm not saying that I think they'll finish in the promotion places, but I am really intrigued to see how they do. They finally put in place a football structure. I've been encouraged by the 2 pickups they've had. Josh Labadie and Connor Wilkinson both played really well last season at this level. So you can't, and they've got rid of a lot of players that really underperformed. And I think they've got a very bright young manager. So those are the reasons I'm optimistic, or at least intrigued. I'm not going to say where I think they'll finish or anything of that nature. And do we think Derek Adams with Bradford as well in League Two?
Yeah, that's the one I was going to say.
Yeah, I think there's some high expectations on him, but his record, he's had a promotion with every club he's been at. Yeah. Ross County, Plymouth Argyle, Morecambe. I don't see why he couldn't do it with Bradford as well.
I'm still interested in Carlisle. I know they've lost a few key players, but I was reading the interview with the director of football they've got there, and it was suggesting that they've got a couple of decent players that'll be announced sort of quite a bit later, but they've effectively got deals done.
I also think in League Two, Harrogate under Sam Weaver, I think they're just steady progressing. They've adapted to the league. They've shown their Football League standard. I think there's potential here for Weaver to get that team really kicking on and maybe looking up towards the top of that table.
I mean, they were sort of very slightly flirting with.
Yeah, they could be a really exciting side sometimes.
And it's a club it's a club that's just in every respect moving in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, if you watch them beat Cambridge in that topsy-turvy, was it a 5-4, 5-3, 5-4, something like that? Yeah, that was an amazing performance from them in an attacking sense. Defensively, less so. But, I mean, yeah, I'd agree with that. The other team as well, Mickey Mellon back at Tranmere. Wouldn't be surprised to see them do quite well.
I can't believe no one's mentioned Keith Coles-Oldham.
I can.
If I can throw another League One in there, it probably isn't too much surprise, but Russell Martin and MK Dons.
I'm
so excited about that team. They've got Scott Twine in midfield now.
And Scott Fraser.
Oh, that midfield is a joke.
Signing.
They need Reece Healey back. I mean, they need a goal scorer, don't they? Like out and out.
Yeah, they do. But then again, they've got a guy who scored penalties and one who could score 30 yards. So they need all they need is a goal scorer and they're sorted.
And what about Ipswich as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to see a bit more of like what he's going to build there before I'm convinced. It's so early, isn't it? It's very hard to say. But yeah, you'd also be interested to see how Bolton do in League One because
I think that was a question from
everybody.
Can Bolton get a second promotion? And I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if they did.
They're probably in the best position out of the 4 teams that went up.
Yeah,
definitely, you'd have to say.
I mean, let's face it, they were in League Two as a product of some terrible ownership. Now they've got that ownership out of the way. The structure and stature of the club. I mean, they've sold. I think they've sold 9,000 season tickets or something already.
Wow, that's impressive.
I think I might have got that wrong, but I think I saw that the other day. So it's a club that's it's set up for success if the right people are around.
Yeah, I definitely think Bolton will do. I mean, if you remember Luton coming up under Nathan Jones and then going straight up again, I mean, there are similarities.
Yeah.
Because Nathan Jones had them playing with a very clear identity. That works extremely well. They had the players that fit around that system. And they've had a season of doing that at Bolton where they finally started getting it right after January. They've signed Declan John. They've brought Ado Afolayan back. What's his first name? I do apologise.
Abadeo, is it?
Oladapo.
Oladapo, that's it. Oladapo Afolayan. He's come back and he's an exciting player. So they brought back the players that were good for them last season. They'll certainly add some very good names. Josh Sheehan, of course, slotting in. I mean, a classy midfielder, Josh Sheehan. They've got Kieran Lee already there, MJ Williams, who's that sort of robust challenger you need with energy in the base of midfield. So, yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised at all to see them up there. And although we talk about this is a strong League One in terms of sides, there are some sides there that are not particularly in great nick. I mean, goodness me, the stuff going on at Sheffield Wednesday. Whew.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them drop again.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Is it really that bad?
Well, they haven't paid the players in months. They're under a transfer embargo, though that embargo at the moment limits them to signing established players over the age of 21 on a free transfer and loans without a loan fee, which is pretty much like every other club in League 1 and 2 would do anyway.
It's not what the promotion contending sides would do.
They won't be. Salopcast asked the question: which teams won't be contending for promotion in League 1? Sheffield Wednesday will not be. If you ask me right now, based on what I've seen, they will not be contending for promotion.
Also, the sides in the Championship and League 2 won't be contending for League 1 promotion.
You don't think Rotherham?
No, that's not what he meant.
That's not what I meant.
That's not what he meant. Oh, Chris, why? I think that's a really difficult question to answer, to be honest. I think there's a lot that will maybe be thinking about it, but I also just because of the amount of teams in this league that I think are looking up rather than down. There's going to be some dragged into that relegation battle that probably didn't want to be there, or didn't expect to be there at least.
On one side that I'd be amazed to see in the promotion race in League One would be Morecambe, but I am really interested to see how they get on with that move up. I mean, I think we'll all be rooting for them next season.
Absolutely.
In League One. And you'd imagine their goals.
I'll be rooting for Morecambe apart from 2 games next season. You can guess which 2 those are.
Yeah, when they play Plymouth, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Indeed. So, Jonathan Harries, he asked the question, which league out of the 2 of them most intrigues you and why? Which one's more intriguing, guys? League 1 or League 2?
I'm going to say League 1. Just we've commented on that. These traditionally big clubs, I think, make it really, really quite interesting, because we've seen in recent years the likes of Sunderland and just a similar extent Portsmouth and Ipswich not doing as well as they can do, and I think when teams come up against them, they slightly raise their game, especially playing such big stadiums. I think that could be really quite interesting.
Yeah, I do think, I have to say League 1 is exciting, isn't it?
It's exciting anyway. Like, just every year, it's just a great league.
It is. It's just made better by the fact that we've got Sheffield Wednesday in it. I think with Sunderland, with Ipswich, Portsmouth, and Accrington as well. Like, it's lovely to have this contrast. And Morecambe, it's a great contrast to have.
Yeah.
And no division is complete without an Oxford United. So just fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, it's a similar sort of stadium.
You've literally been trying to get out of it the last 2 years.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't. Yeah, exactly. If you want a division that has real intrigue, you have to have at least one stadium that's not complete.
That's true.
You have to have some quirk.
What I would say,
used to have a sloping pitch.
Well, we at one point we had Blackpool with 2 stands, Oxford with 3 stands, and Oldham with 3 stands, all in the same league.
Yeah, and Stevenage had a gaping hole behind one of their goals for ages while they built that other stand, didn't they?
Yeah,
they did. What I would say though about League 2, I know we're focusing on League 1, but there's a really interesting influx of managers in that league now.
Yeah.
A lot of teams that are coming in with completely new bosses that you're thinking, okay, what could happen here? We haven't mentioned it yet, but Kenny Jackett at Leyton Orient.
What a move that is.
Really positive on that.
In fact, that's one I meant to mention earlier for teams to keep an eye on. I'd keep an eye on Leyton Orient.
Yeah, they weren't bad last season. I mean, they have let some of their best players go, but then they'll rebuild, you think, with the manager.
And Kenny Jackett's, if you're going to be building a new club, Kenny Jackett's someone you'd like to have around.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. I mean, you've got John McGreal going, of course, to Swindon. Is it Rob Edwards to Forest Green?
Yeah.
Plenty of others as well, I think.
Mark Cooper at Barrow as well.
Derek Adams we've mentioned already.
It's a weird one, interesting one as well.
Yeah. What did you make of that Derek Adams move? I know it was spoken about for a while.
I can see why he would go, not being unfair to Morecambe. I mean, Bradford is like sleeping giant, aren't they? And obviously he'll get a bigger budget, he'll probably get a bigger wage, and I think he sees that as a project which he can take further than Morecambe.
Bradford are one of those clubs, especially with the new owner now, that are sort of like Bolton. They've got a stature that can take them to the Championship in time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, although it's sad to see him go after what he achieved at Morecambe have got a really good manager in Stephen Robinson. I don't know. Is that the police?
Did you alert the police before, James?
Yeah, I did. I just thought they'd wait until after we finish recording. I'll have to have a word. But yeah, no. So yeah, I can see why he went. But I think Stephen Robinson is an excellent. I mean, that is an excellent manager to have at Morecambe.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, Oldham fans. I mean, I at the time gave him a lot of stick, and actually in hindsight, I thought it was probably unfair because the story at Oldham was we were supposed to get Stephen Evans that season. He'd effectively agreed to become manager, and the day he was supposed to sign the contract, he phoned him and said, "Nah, this doesn't feel right," and he was probably right. So Stephen Robinson was brought in, and he had, I think it was like 2-3 weeks to build an entire squad. There were 4 or 5. There were 5 contracted players, and 2 of them were youth graduates when he joined. But we were sort of languishing in the relegation zone, and we brought John Sheridan in to work his magic. But the job he's done up in Scotland has been fantastic, and I'm glad to see him get a move back to England, back to the Football League, because I think he could be a really successful manager.
And I'm led to believe there's a lot to keep an eye on happening next week at Morecambe. So make sure you've got your notifications on for some of the players that they're, I believe, going to be bringing in. So keep an eye on that one. A couple of questions about Portsmouth from Cowley's Cows, and there was a very similar question, I think,
Ben Wallace this morning.
Yeah. So Cowley's Cows asked, what do you make of the overhaul happening? New team, CEO, coaches, academy boss, Cowley's data analysis. Fans wanted change and felt Oldway died a slow death. Is it too much too soon, or very clever and consistent appointments with signings to follow the same thinking and attributes? And there was, like you said, there was one this morning, wasn't there? From
Ben. It was effectively the same question. Pompey have released many of their key players. Can Danny Cowley rebuild, or is it to be promotion contenders? Or could they be? Sorry, can Danny Cowley rebuild to be promotion contenders next season, or is it too big an ask given financial turmoil caused by last season's disruption?
In Cowley we trust. I think he's a great. I think what he's doing is what he always does. When he goes into a club, he puts in the structures that allow him to be successful over a longer period. But he'll be very aware that it's a results business and he needs to get them results straight away. So I think Portsmouth, I'd be very surprised if they, given who's left and the amount of change that they're going through, I'd be very surprised if they really did make a tilt for the automatics. But they'll be a big side fighting at the top end of the table for sure. And if you're a Pompey fan, I'd urge you very much to not get too disappointed if you're not immediately challenging, because it's so easy as a football fan to get lost in the immediacy and the passion and the emotion of what you're watching right at that time. But actually, just try and step yourself back a bit and look at what Danny Cowley is doing at the club. It's something that will get you a lot further in the long term than just changing managers all the time and having this short-term attitude. His methods have been tried and tested. It took Lincoln from the National League to League One, and it left a really good foundation there for Michael Appleton to then build on. They nearly got to the Championship last season. Huddersfield, I'm sure he would have done a lot better than this season with them if he was there. So
he shouldn't have been sacked by Huddersfield, should he?
No, the chairman's a difficult character though, and I think it was for him as a manager in his career, he'll be a lot happier, I think, at somewhere like Portsmouth, where he's given the ability to sort of run the show.
I think the new CEO at Portsmouth, he's done a fantastic job with MK Dons, the CEO that's gone in there.
Yeah.
And actually, after the season we've had, and also we've spoken of Portsmouth under Kenny Jackett being a little bit old school. I think some fresh faces in the finance department as well might just be what they need, especially after the finances of the last season, especially after the difficulties. Some slightly new blood might just be what they need, especially if they're to back Cowley in the transfer window.
Your thoughts on this, Ed? I think you're a big fan of Cowley as well.
Yeah, the only thing they can be up there, but the thing is, this is probably the most terrifying League One lineup I can recall for years and years and years, and it's going to be a case where, Portsmouth are normally one of the promotion favourites at the start of the season. I'm not sure they will be one of the promotion favourites this year. They might be up there, but there's so many teams around them that can be in a similar situation. I could honestly maybe see them missing out on the top seeds again, which I don't know if the fans will be too particularly pleased about, but this is such a difficult division to get out of. And I remember Darren McAntony saying he's glad he got out with Peterborough when he did, and he was spot on, because this league is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a difficult division, which, Ian Bradley asked this question, which is a fair one, actually. Will Sunderland continue to criminally underperform?
I'm not making a comment on this.
I think this is the time when you'll start to see them do. They've never been that bad, have they?
No, they've always been like half a sort of step behind where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think the new ownership.
By underperform, do we mean not go up? Is that defining underperforming?
Well, for
or is it
Sunderland,
making a playoff final, for instance?
well, for Sunderland, the aim has to be promotion. There's no one has a right to be in a league be in any league, but Sunderland should not be in League One. And I think new ownership and Lee Johnson as manager, should he be backed properly, which it sounds like he will be, should go up. And I don't know. My predictions on Sunderland are usually wrong, so
I just think that they're not far off it. If you look at the last few seasons, I mean, who knows where they would have finished in that season that got cancelled when they were still within a very good shout of the automatic. So it's difficult. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it this year. I think Lee Johnson's had a little bit of time. They've got a structure in place, a new owner. So they should be, in terms of timescales, they should be a step ahead of a few sides that are still building. But they'll be, like I said, I do wonder whether Shrewsbury can recreate the magic of 17-18, because they are the epitome of a well-run club, and they've got a manager who's clearly been doing very well and knows what he wants from them. But we will see. We had Lord Barold also ask, is Lee Johnson the right man to spearhead the new owner's long-term strategy and top-to-bottom plans for the club? I think he is.
I think so.
At Oldham, what he brought in was a complete structure for the club, and obviously it's harder to manage that at a club the size of Sunderland, but if you're going to have anyone look after a long-term project, I think he's the right man for it.
Yeah. I see this from a Charlton fan. If hypothetically your club hadn't made any signings, at what point would you start to get worried?
I mentioned Oldham not having many players a couple of weeks before the start of the season, and we were quite worried about that.
It's mid-June.
Yeah,
I don't think pre-season's a month away. Players' contracts haven't even officially ended yet. I don't think there's any need to panic at all.
I wouldn't either. I think once you're getting into July and you've not made one or two at least, I'd be starting to worry. But I mean, there's a lot of clubs that haven't signed anyone yet.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I mean, Oxford were the first club to sign a player this season, weren't they? Which was good. I was quite pleased with that. Nipped in. I thought Harry Pell was the first one, but actually Oxford did make Marcus McGrain's move from Notts Forest permanent before that, which was
Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest.
You can't call them Notts Forest.
Did you just call them Notts Forest? Oh.
Yeah, no, Nottingham Forest. I know who I mean. That's all I need to know. Any other good questions? Yes, there was a good question actually about Gillingham from David Jenkins.
I've got one about Wickham as well, but go to the Gillingham one first.
So what do you think of Conor Ogilvie, Jordan Graham and Jack Bonham leaving the Gills after contract breakdowns, and where do you envision this team going with other stars of last season kept on, such as Dempsey and Verdane Oliver? Ed.
I don't know for sure. I'm always a bit unsure with Gills. I think I look at Ogilvie, who I thought was really good last season. I really enjoyed him. Jordan Graham as well. They seem like a bit of a loss, but I kind of feel like Gills might be able to find a replacement for them. They're one of the teams I'm really unsure about most at the minute, because just at this stage of the season, I feel like with most sides we'll get a better idea the closer we get towards the start of the new campaign. But I
do think they'll miss those players, though. I think it's very hard for a club of Gillingham's stature to get players in who are as good as those guys immediately. It's very, as an Oxford fan, it is hard to replace the players that you let go. Oxford always sell players on, and we have a great ability to replace them. But there have been times when those players that have come in haven't immediately kicked off and done well. Maybe a little bit like Rob Atkinson this season. There's talk of him now being the next big sell from Oxford, which is fine, but he didn't start the season that convincingly as a replacement for Rob Dickey, and it took us a while to get going. And I think whoever comes in to replace the likes of Ogilvie, Graham and Bonham, they've got some big shoes to fill, and there's no guarantee that Dempsey won't be sold. I think the club are desperate to keep hold of him, but there's a lot of interest.
Steve Evans has said there's no hard feelings on these players leaving. They want to progress their career and probably get a bit of a pay rise. I'm not sure they'll get as much money as they might have done in in other seasons, because I think everything's a little bit tighter.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a difficult time to be a free agent footballer, isn't it?
Well, I do wonder if they might look back and slightly regret moving on. Just because Gillingham, they finished 10th last season. They're in a reasonably good place to push on a bit. And perhaps another season, especially in the current climate, might have done them some good.
Indeed. We shall see what happens at Chills. I think Steve Evans has always got some signings up his sleeve, and so we'll see how they replace them. J.R. Bullman, also known as Shirt, says, what the hell is going on at Carlisle?
I asked you the same question.
Yeah, I've done some digging on this, and I've hit up a few of my sources. And essentially, look, the three players that left in Omari Patrick, Paul Farman, and Ofrande Zanzala, they all were offered new deals at Carlisle. Obviously, everyone knows Carlisle's got a limited budget. It's in the bottom quartile, I think, of League Two last season. So they are competing against clubs that are, able to offer a better wage. But I think the one thing that I got from some of the sources I was speaking to is that it was this 1 year deal again that has lost these players. If you look at them, all three of them have signed 2 year deals at the clubs they've joined. Frandy Zanzala and Paul Farmer have got 2 year deals from Barrow. Amari Patrick, a 2 year deal from Burton. They certainly weren't offered that. I'm under the understanding at Carlisle.
They're a rare thing in football anyway at this level.
Well, they are, but I think you can argue, if you look at how Paul Farman played last season, and indeed Zanzala at the end of the campaign, you can't argue that they didn't deserve a bit of security. And if you're a footballer with a family, you're going to go and take the 2 year deal. You just would.
Well, yeah, all day long. And I think I saw somewhere, I think it's Paul Farman lives in Newcastle, so to get to Barrow or Carlisle, it's the same, very similar commute.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think you did say David Holdsworth has put out that they have got some deals agreed. So it could be that Carlisle have faith in the backup keeper. They have faith in the players that they've got. I mean, Josh Coyote going and Zanzala going, they need someone up front who can be that target, that player.
Do you know if Barrow is still training in Manchester? Because I wonder if that's a bit of a pull as well.
I will find that out. I assume they are.
Because the thing with Carlisle, I remember listening to Anthony Gerrard on one of the podcasts. I can't remember. It might have been Under the Cosh. He suggested that when players join Carlisle, they tend to go to a sort of group house during the week to train, and perhaps being able to settle somewhere around Manchester for the training and then commute up to Barrow for the matches might be a little bit more convenient than being up in Carlisle away from family.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to take in. For lower league footballers, it's not all glitz and glamour. It can be quite a difficult profession. There can be quite a lot of sacrifices. So,
and especially with 1 year deals, players can't move house fully, can they? So they're having to be away from their family.
No, exactly.
A lot of the time.
Exactly. So that's I wouldn't panic if I was a Carlisle fan, but if you want to know why players that you think should stay didn't, that's the reason.
It makes sense. I still think they'll. I felt reasonably confident reading the article from Holdsworth.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you've got to trust Chris Beach. His recruitment guys are really good. Jacob Blaine is a very good analyzer of players, and I think you trust who they brought in last season. It'll be very similar though. You're not going to see. I would be very surprised if you see like marquee signings on big money. It's going to be players that add value to the current squad, but also their value will increase over time because they're of the age where you can develop them, and that's what Carlisle are going for. It might be frustrating as a fan because it does put you in a position where you get inconsistent performances at times, but at the moment, I think we saw Edinburgh Woolen Mill go into administration, who were big backers of Carlisle financially. I mean, you've got to focus on let's make sure the club survives and does the right things off the pitch before we worry too much about what goes on it. Obviously, you don't want to have a catastrophe or anything like that, but I'd be very surprised if Carlisle fell away hugely based on the performances they had last season. Anthony Fitzpatrick asks, if you could have one player signed from a League 1 or 2 side, who would you choose? He said his would be Peter Clark just to see him back in an Oldham shirt.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, my serious answer was, I mean, I put a couple of players down. Jorge Grant, I think, after last season. We're sticking with that pronunciation of his name, right?
Of course we are.
Verdane Oliver, maybe. And I still have a soft spot for Callum Lang, but on a serious point, I think his performances last season, after being recalled from his loan, were seriously impressive for Wigan.
I'd have Dylan Bahambula, just because I love Dylan Bahambula.
He's already in our shirt for now.
He's in your shirt. Yeah, I mean, if I could sign one player, I mean, he's just such an exciting player, and would love to see him in a side like MK Dons, for example. I mean,
there's no way he's staying at Oldham.
No, I can't see how.
Well, seeing as we're working our way through your squad, Chris.
Well, yeah, you're already.
I'm the same as you, to be honest, James. Like, I think back to Jimmy Philaspang's first spell, Nasser El Kayati, the kind of player that just really excited us, and probably the closest thing to that in League 1 2 right now is Batambula. So if the opportunity was there, I'd snap your hand off.
Oldham B team.
I don't care. I don't care. I'll take it.
It's weird they're having an Oldham B team in a higher division than the Oldham first team.
It's something. To be fair, if we set up a B team, seriously, they probably would be better than us. So.
They'd get that first promotion before you guys.
Someone was putting together a shirt of all the signings that Mohamed Lemzagan's brought into the club. They're putting an 11 of all those signings together.
Oh, that's going to be wonderful. Speaking of Oldham, then, do you think Curl could get Oldham contending for the playoffs if left to build and manage the team as he wants? Or has the reputation been damaged to the point where no players of a good standard want to sign contracts with Oldham?
I think there if he's left to do what he wants.
Yeah, actually, the second point he makes is a very good one, though, because I am aware that certain agents, in fact, a lot of agents now are suggesting do not sign for Oldham. You'll either end up not getting paid or you'll end up in a contractual dispute or an argument that you just don't want to be in.
Yeah, that's actually not untrue either. I've heard that from a few of the people I sort of go to for inside information, and
after the last few seasons, after the treatment of players like, I mean, Peter Clark being let go from the club in the manner that he was, that's not a good sign. The way we treated David Wheater, I mean, going back a couple of years, Jack Fern, Usman Fain ended up in the youth team. I mean, it's not, you can't blame agents for feeling that way. Having said that, if he can get the players in, I mean, and Curl is a good recruiter of players, we could theoretically do quite well. But, I mean, this is all in a fantasy world where there isn't that interference.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. But I think, to answer the question, if Curl is left to it, yes, he could do it, and he could do quite well. But that's the sticking point, isn't it? And that's the thing that no one as yet has been able to get past, and that's why Oldham are going through managers in a rate of knots that they continue to struggle at the sort of bottom half of League Two. So Luke has asked a good question. The budget cap was scrapped during the season. However, what has happened over the last couple of years with Berry and Maxwell, etc.? Do you guys think this is something that should be revisited for a sustainability of League 1 and 2? If so, what system would you use instead?
I mean, it's an impossible situation.
I was in favour of the salary cap because I think it would make League 1 and 2 clubs sustainable. However, I didn't like the way it was rushed through, and I didn't like the fact that it limited clubs with much bigger turnovers and income from spending, because I just don't see that's not a sustainable. That's nothing to do with sustainability. And people say, oh, well, it's not fair. Well, come on. I mean, is it ever fair that, is football ever an equal playing field? Manchester United are always going to be able to outspend Burnley. Sunderland should always be able to outspend Morecambe because they've got 30,000 season ticket holders. And, but there should be a reasonable limit, an upper limit of where clubs can spend to, and it should be inextricably linked to what you bring in from your income, your tangible income. So your season ticket sales, your merchandise sales, we should not be including director loans in here as part of income.
It's rubbish that they're included. It makes no sense.
No, because you're falsely inflating your wage bill based on an income that's not secured on a sustainable footing. Because a director can leave at any moment's notice. His business can fail at a moment's notice. And that can leave clubs outpaying the money that they're bringing in, and it can leave them in big.
It also ends up with the situation at Oldham where the valuation of the club, because of the amount of directors' loans in there, inflates the value of the club so that they can't be sold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there should be a limit on what directors can spend on infrastructure. They can spend whatever they want on infrastructure, because that doesn't necessarily leave long-term commitments. If you've signed a 2-year contract with a player and you've agreed to pay him 10 grand a week, you have to pay him contractually 10 grand a week for 2 years. Whereas if you've decided to build a training ground and you've built that and you've paid that in a one-off cost, I mean, you could argue that if you're paying it over a period of time and the director leaves, who pays that bill? But I would certainly think that there are ways. I'm not an accountant, so I don't know. But I mean, I certainly would say
developments can be paused as well. If finances dip, you can pause the development of a training ground or stadium redevelopment.
Yeah, you can. Oh, they're back again for you, mate. They're just not
they're back. I think they're circling round, searching for me.
Yeah, I'll just tell them follow that stench.
Wow.
I was more talking about the illicit plants that you're growing in your greenhouse rather than just the fact that you haven't washed for a week. But actually, but yeah, so I definitely think that there should be some upper financial limit based, and this is the thing with this. It's always about who polices it.
But they need to tighten up what they've got at the moment. Because I think the problem, as I understood it with the salary cap, was because it was a fixed amount because the Players Football, PFA, launched and won their complaint because it's a fixed amount rather than being flexible. And so they probably just need to tighten up the financial fair play rules. Like you say, remove directors' loans from it and make it more enforceable. And make the punishment serious. Make it, a 10-point deduction if you breach it.
Yeah.
After, maybe give, an allowance for one breach, and if you do it again, have something serious like a 10-point deduction or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it has to include the championship.
It absolutely does, yeah.
That's the thing for me. You can't do this to League 1 and 2 and then not have it to the championship, because it's just going to make an already big gap absolutely enormous.
Yeah. But that's where my point comes in about, as long as it's based on the incomes of the club, what's the problem? Football is spending far too much on wages, and the PFA are protecting their players. But the PFA have got to understand, if clubs go out of business, there's nowhere for their players to get employment. So,
yeah,
it's a double-edged sword here. You're playing a dangerous game. If you want to keep wages inflated beyond the reality of what the sport can afford to pay, then you're living on dangerous ground, and bubbles burst, unfortunately. So, yeah, I definitely think, like you say, it should be for the championship, but it should be based on the income the clubs have, and it should be policed properly. There shouldn't be loopholes or ways around it, and if they find that clubs are doing that, those loopholes should be closed immediately, and disciplinary action should be taken against clubs that flout the rules. It's as simple as that. There definitely needs to be something there, because at the moment I'm not confident we won't see more clubs disappear in the next few years, but we'll see. Let's hope not. Liam Jones says, were you surprised to see Joss Labadie leave Newport? No, I wasn't surprised to see him leave. I was surprised to see him sign for Walsall. That's the shock here, I think, more than anything. He could have gone to. He probably had a few offers on the table, but it does seem Matt Taylor is a good persuader of players. So,
I mean, you said before you think something might be happening at Walsall, so perhaps perhaps you're onto something, and perhaps that's been sold to him well. You do get that from time to time.
I think we've got to be a bit careful on Matt Taylor. He's cheating a bit this season. He gets to lead Exeter into League 2, and he gets to lead Walsall into League 2 as well.
Yeah. Yes, double identity there.
You've been enjoying these, haven't you, Ed?
Yes, I have. Because we've got a few of them. Got Aaron Martins as well now. This is quite fun.
Aaron Martin.
You've got Mark yourself, Aaron, when you play Harrogate. Oh, okay. That'd be an interesting commentary. Aaron Martin, gets the ball, tackles Aaron Martin, Aaron Martin's won it back from Aaron Martin. People going, what the hell's going on? Something wrong with my radio. But yeah, any questions that we haven't answered, Ed? Is there any...
I've got one from Ashley Cowley. Do you guys think Wickham could struggle in League One next season?
Ooh,
I don't think struggle. I don't.
Yeah.
No, not for me.
I think with the quality of League One next season, I think they might struggle to bounce back up, but I think they'll be absolutely fine. I expect a top half finish still.
You know, I was a bit worried about Ainsworth potentially moving on. I feel like he is probably going to be there now, which is positive for them. They feel like you're getting that structure in place where they just want to be a bit more sustainable towards the top of League One and maybe the bottom of the Championship with this B team they're putting in. I look at some of the players they have. I think Ikpiatsu and Anis Mehmeti, if they're both still there, could cause a lot of damage next season.
I'm surprised not to have seen Ainsworth linked with a few jobs, actually.
I think he was linked with the Preston one. I don't know if that's... I can't remember if Preston actually got a boss in or not yet. I can't remember exactly, but there was a link with that maybe that could have happened.
Yeah.
I just think that he doesn't want to move barbers. You know, he likes his hair a certain way, and you can only get that in Buckinghamshire, probably.
Yeah.
And plus, you know, the purveyor of leather jackets must be loving his custom.
He is just the coolest man, isn't he?
It just is.
Yeah, I can see why people sort of think he's a bit of a parody as well, actually, at times. But yeah, no, he's a top guy.
He has a degree from a good place as well, where all the best people get their degrees.
Where's that?
Liverpool. He did a masters a couple of years ago. It was while he was Wickham boss. He got a masters in. I think it was in football management or football business or something like that.
I was going to say, if it's in geology, that is impressive.
In geology.
No, he's into a different kind of rock.
Yeah.
End this now, please.
Isn't it? Oh God, yes. Let's before we get into many more of Chris's jokes, they are. They're very bad. They're very bad in a sort of kind
now
of.
Now we've got rid of a few listeners. Let's go on to the next lot.
Yeah, before you get rid of both our listeners, Chris, let's move on. Paul B asked the question: some of the big teams in League One are rebuilding. If you were Sunderland, Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, etc., which would be the three players you'd look to bring in? One defender, midfielder, and one attacker. Paul, this is an unfair question. I mean,
this is a very hard question.
It's so difficult because, of course, are you looking to bring in free transfers? Are you looking to spend money? I mean, you know, it's extremely difficult. I did have a think about this. I mean, if I was any of them, I'd bring in Bahambula, frankly, because I think you could get them at a decent price. But I
would have said Carlos Mendes Gomez, but they've just signed a new contract with him, haven't they? So it's essentially a fee now, which is not going to be particularly.
All three of them should go and get Conor Ogilvie on a free transfer. Yeah. That would be brilliant business. And why not Jack Bonham as a challenger for your goalkeeper? Because I mean he's a number one who could easily back up whoever you've got there. So I mean potentially those guys. But I again, without going on to a huge depth, I think it would be very, very difficult to answer that question in a huge amount of detail because there's just so many good players that they could sign. I mean, for me, Sheffield Wednesday just need to get themselves sorted.
Not implode.
Yeah, really big. Right, my wife has asked us a question, guys. So Jazz has asked, if football, cricket, rugby and ice hockey didn't exist, what sport would you be interested in and why? She's put ice hockey in there just to scupper.
Which sports, sorry?
So football, cricket, rugby and ice hockey. If those didn't exist, what sport would you be interested in and why?
I don't think I would be.
I'd probably be a basketball fan. I could see myself getting really into that. I like the intensity of it. The fact that it's just end-to-end, non-stop, really high scoring. I find that really entertaining.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I went to Barcelona with my dad a few years ago and we watched the roller hockey before going to the football, and that was really entertaining. I don't mind the tennis every now and then, but I don't watch it much.
Tennis is not bad, yeah.
Tennis, yeah, I'm not. I would say ice hockey, but she's not allowed me that. So
roller hockey.
Roller hockey. I think that's tennis. I mean, I might say baseball because I kind of.
Baseball goes on too long. I'm sorry, I can't. Nah.
I like cricket.
I can't do cricket either. It's just on too long.
I like cricket and I find baseball boring, so that should say something.
I think I have a appreciation of baseball appreciation of baseball, which was harnessed from when my kids were born, and I literally was awake all night, and it was the only thing I could watch, and it kind of kept me going. So I do have an appreciation for it. when I was having to be up with the kids when they're babies. That got me through. Those are times when literally running on empty. I don't know where I found the energy to keep going actually, but baseball was probably the one I'd choose. I've never got into the NFL. I think it's just.
I mean, that's basically just rugby league with more rules.
And more start, stop.
Oh, it's so stop, start.
I watched the Super Bowl for the first time a couple of years ago, and it lasts like 3 hours, and the ball's in play for like 5 minutes.
It's made me realise, if they ever did this in football, where they stopped the clock every time the ball went out of play, the game would go on about 3.5 hours.
But the ball's only actually in play for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's something stupid. Like, what? Who came up with this?
I can see why people like it in terms of it's quite very tactical, because you have to try and make plays that outthink the opposition defensive movers. But it's all rather. It's the
and
show.
Why did it all run into each other? Why? Like, what's that all about?
Well, it's basically they're trying to. You've got the attacking team trying to stop the defensive team stopping your quarterback from making the throw to your attacking player. So they all just charge at each other to stop.
It's just ridiculous.
It's not something I could particularly find myself getting into that heavily, I don't think.
No one mentioned darts.
No, we're talking about sport.
Oh!
Yeah. Being good at darts, a sign of a wasted life. Yeah. Yeah, indeed. But yeah, no, not.
I can't believe no one mentioned Quidditch.
Quidditch. I could get into Quidditch. Quidditch. I
can't believe it's actually a sport still. You see it at universities, just they've got a Quidditch team. I'm like, why?
They don't really, do they?
Yeah, they do. It's a thing. It's been made into an actual sport, and
how do you play when you don't? Unless they've actually invented brooms that fly.
You just jump every now and then. That potentially going higher.
You run around. I think you do hold like something in one hand. I don't know. So you are limited to one hand, and I don't know. It's just it looks ridiculous when I've seen it.
It's not something I'd actively go out the way to see. Let's put it that way.
It sounds like something I'd actively go out my way to avoid. Frankly. They're playing Quidditch. You want to come see? No, there's some ants over here eating a sandwich. I'm going to come watch them.
Yeah, I saw some paint drying before.
Yeah, I heard they were giving out free nails through your hand at the local place. I thought I might try that out, actually. That sounds more enticing. Anyway, before we completely kill off any remaining interest from our listeners, we'll call it a day there, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who sent in questions. I do not know when we'll be back yet. I will try and bring some interesting interviews over the summer, time permitting and availability permitting, of course. Chris and Ed, big thank you for you guys joining me. If people are wondering where Luke was, he had to work, so he pulled out late last night, the last minute. But I do forgive you, Luke, if you're listening. Don't worry.
And it's coming home, lads. It's coming home.
It's coming home. Yes. Let's pray that we don't. Let's just pray we don't start badly. It's a good start to the tournament. Croatia are always a team that are difficult.
I hate to play Croatia. Such bad memories.
Revenge time.
Let's hope you're right. I hope your optimism is well founded. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you, dear listener, for being here. Thank you to our patrons, and we'll be back really soon. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the sun. Until then, goodbye.